Thanks everyone for joining and taking time out for this webinar. This is Kunal, as Aishwarya mentioned, your host for the evening. And I'm really excited to do this webinar for several reasons, and which I'll kind of discuss during this webinar. But first of all, welcome everyone. I'll also just share my screen. Okay, great. Window for the first few minutes. So I might miss your messages over there, but I intend to have this webinar in a interactive manner. So I'll keep on asking questions in between, and I'll jump in between the chat window and the presentation. So with that, let me kind of start the webinar. What we'll do in this webinar today is we'll talk about how to become a data scientist in 2019. And as I said, this is something which is really close to my heart because this is an annual exercise which I do at the start of every year. And I'll tell you how it started and why we are doing this year on year very, very shortly. So, just to set the context for the webinar, as we all know, the world around us is changing way faster than what any of us are used to. And when I say changing faster, I am specifically referring to the technological changes which are happening around us, right? So any domain you pick up today, it's on the brink of disruption through use of AI and ML and technologies which are based on data science. So data science is playing a very, very critical role across the domains which you look for. And if you were to go by what experts are saying, so I have a few quotes from the thought leaders like Jeff Bezos and Sundar Pichai on screen. This is just the start of a new technological era, right? So over the next 15 to 20 years, these technologies would make a huge difference in various domains. So there would be disruptions, there would be enhancements, there would be new things which machines would be able to do, which today look very difficult to us as humans. So there is a lot of excitement, a lot of action happening in this domain. And that's basically one of the reasons why a lot of you would have thought to kind of become a data scientist in 2019. Right. So as I mentioned, both these people think that this is a change which is going to sustain for years to come. And there are various other reasons. So if you were to look at how careers are changing with this kind of disruption, there are several roles which exist today, which are going out because of automation and these disruptions. So for example, lawyers, accountants, data entry operators, to the factors in various industries. All of these roles are disappearing because of automation, which is happening in industry. On the other end, there are new roles which are coming up because of these technologies. So these include things like AR, VR specialists, people who can handle data coming from drones, or people who can handle data coming from several machines to space explorations. So, we are in middle of one of a kind, disruption happening right now. And that's why it makes sense to get into a career which is going to stay and going to evolve in the next 10 to 15 years. And that's where, a lot of people kind of say that they want to become a data scientist. So this is something which I'm assuming is there for granted. All of you are convinced that you want to kind of be a data scientist. And that's the starting premise for this webinar. The problem actually starts from here. So once you decide that you want to become a data scientist, the next question which comes up is what next? And if you are a true beginner in this domain, you would do what makes the most sense. You would start asking people around you, people who you think are in this domain, questions about how to become a data scientist, what are the best ways to enhance yourself and upskill yourself. and that's where the confusion starts. And depending on whom you ask and their background and their expertise, you can get variety of recommendations or suggestions, starting from do offline trainings, to take a few online courses, attend meetups, blogs, read blogs, participate in various competitions, attend a few webinars, probably like this one. There are several podcasts which you can use. Some people might also recommend you to read books, as there are multiple books. You could follow YouTube channels. So bottom line is, there is no dearth of resources. And as a data scientist, or as a person who want to become a data scientist, it becomes very overwhelming when you look at so many resources being referred and people giving varied advice. Like someone might ask you to learn R, someone might ask you to learn SQL, someone might ask you to learn Python. There might be people who say SaaS is a must if you want to get into a banking job. So as a beginner, when you look at all these advice and you hear various perspectives, it starts getting confusing and overwhelming. And that's what I was observing while I was growing analytics with there. So that's where this idea of creating a learning path came in the first place. That we are no longer in a world where there is dearth of resources. Probably we have moved, we are in a world where there are way too many resources. So if you go out and do a quick search on Google asking how to become a data scientist, you'll see millions and millions of results coming out, with none of them kind of giving you a very, very structured approach as to how to become a data scientist. And that's where we started doing learning paths, and that was the idea behind creating these learning paths. So the first learning path was created by me, as you can see. So this is this exact screenshot from Analytics with their website. So the first learning path went live on Analytics Vidya in January 2015. So 4 years 4 years before. And we got phenomenal response from the community, because this is a pain point which I'm sure a lot of beginners come across, that there are way too many resources, way too many people giving advice about what to do in data science and how to become a data scientist, which may or may not speak to each other, which may end up confusing you. So what I said was that, let me kind of, as an expert, uh, go back, take all the resources, do a survey of what resources are available, arrange them in a logical fashion, and release it to the community members. So that's what we did in our learning path. So all the resources on the learning paths are free. None of these are paid resources. So if you want to follow these learning paths at your own end, you're completely free to do it. There are no commercial obligations. The idea behind creating these learning paths and releasing it was to enable more and more people to do self-learning. And that's what we did. And the community loved what we did. So within 2015, we got close to 150,000 views on this learning path, which grew to 250,000 in the next year, and almost 500,000 views in 2017. So we knew that we had hit a pain point for the community members, and it was a problem which people were facing day on day. And that's when we said that, let's now go and structure this even further. So starting 2018, we moved the learning paths to our learning management system, which is LMS. So what it does is, it not only tells you what to do, it also arranges them in a nice sequence, and you can keep track of your progress. And as I said, it's completely free. The idea is to enable as many people in their learning by arranging the resources which are available out there, so that there is less confusion, and you can progress on your own learning path at your own pace, at your own free time. So that's what we did. And here is an example of Arihant. So Arihant is a community member, and he is currently working as a data scientist at Vodafone Idea Limited. So I met Arihant around the same time when I kind of launched these learning paths, and he came to one of the meetups, analytics with their meetups, which was happening in Delhi. And And what he did really well was he stuck to the learning path. He made sure that he's following it diligently, and by doing that he was able to not only get into data science domain. He's now been working as a data scientist for close to more than 2 years actually. And he has been also a speaker in our Mumbai meetup, and he loves presenting his work to community and helping community members. So here is a success story to just make tell you that these learning paths actually work. There are many such success stories which I have not mentioned right now, but this is proven, and this is by taking multiple inputs from industry people, and we know for sure that these learning paths work. And that's why we spend a lot of time. We make sure that each and everything is actionable in these learning paths, so that you can use these learning paths for your own benefit. So with that context, let me kind of summarize what has changed in between 2018 and 2019. So, and the reason to showcase this is, we created a learning path at the start of 2018, but that's no longer as relevant as it was at the start of 2018. So there is a lot of changes which has happened in industry, specifically around deep learning. So there has been a lot of development in deep learning. As a data scientist today, you need to people expect that you would know deep learning and neural networks. Additionally, there are tools like AutoML, new version of TensorFlow, which has come out in this year. So a lot of development which has happened in 2018, which essentially meant that you need to have a new learning roadmap, a new learning path for 2019, and that's where the new learning path, the refreshed learning path, is coming out. As I said, this learning path is for absolute beginners. So even if you have no background in data science, you can come and follow these actions or follow these resources step by step, do these exercises, do these projects, and by end of it, you would become a data scientist. What is the expected effort? We expect you to put in 8 to 10 hours per week in order to complete this learning path by end of this year. Obviously, this would vary by depending on your own learning speed, depending on your own learning agility. So people might do it faster, people might do it slower. There might be topics where you might to spend a bit more time, and at the same time, you may or may not be able to spend 8 to 10 hours every week. So if you spend 4 to 5 hours, it will probably end up taking 2 years instead of 1 year if you have to complete this learning path. So keep that thing in mind. But as I said, progress on your own pace, progress on your own speed, and make sure that you do projects, do exercises as you progress through this learning path. Right. So coming to learning path 2019, what are the areas which it covers? So it covers basic statistics in Python. It covers machine learning, it covers deep learning. So those are the three broad areas. So when we'll go through the learning path, you'll see that it is broadly divided in three areas. There are months where we'll be learning statistics and Python. There are months when we'll be learning machine learning, and then there are good almost half a year when we are learning deep learning and its applications in industries. During the entire learning path, what you'll see is there are these special icons which are made in different color. This is basically a parallel learning track. So this is essentially saying while you are learning these things in your own environment, you should continue to do these activities in parallel. So these are things like building your profile, building your CV, going and attending meetups, going and attending webinars, writing blogs. So things which you need to do continuously along with your learning. And this, as you would expect, this would start building up as you go more and more into the learning path. So the first few months, this would be relatively light. Later in the year, this would start becoming more and more important. So you are not only learning, you are going continuously giving it back to the community. You are continuously showcasing what you have done to people on social media, so that your own profile continues to build. Right. So some of you might also be asking a question that why choose Python? So if you have not noticed, already, we have very categorically recommended that you should, if you're a complete beginner, you should start your journey with Python. And the reason for that is, if you look at how the growth in industry has happened on Python. So these are Google searches, trend for Google searches from Google search. You can see it's on a continuous increase. Python is very, very friendly and easy to learn. It integrates well with production systems. So if you have written a code of machine learning on Python, you can very easily export it and integrate it with your production systems. That's one of the main reasons why Python works much better than R in production environment. And then most of the popular development on deep learning tools like TensorFlow, PyTorch, all of this is happening on Python. So the first few set of libraries which come out are on Python. So what it, if you are already on a Python ecosystem, it enables you to learn these tools much more quickly, as opposed to when you are using any other language. Now, one word of caution: if you're already in your journey and you have learned R already, what I would say is, in that case, just take the concepts which you need to learn till about month 6 of this learning program, where we move to deep learning. Till that time, you can continue to learn on R. Once you're by that time, you should be comfortable on R. Pick up Python after that, and but before you go into deep learning, you need to have Python as your main learning language. Right. So with that, let me kind of quickly walk you through what this learning path is about, what we'll need, what we'll do month on month, and post that I'll just open up the floor for questions. Right. So with that, so let's start with January. So if you're a complete beginner, you'll need to start with what is data science, what kind of applications of data science are there out there. What are the tools you need to have on your system? As I said, you need to have Python. You need to install it. You need to get started with it. So there are various things, starting from things like data structures in Python, use of lists, dictionaries, pandas, various libraries. You should learn all of that, and then you should move on to learning statistics. So statistics is one of the most fundamental things you need to know as a data scientist, because there are a lot of times very simple questions which get answered really well with statistics, especially around, you know, describing populations, describing what is happening, looking at differences. And once you've done that, you should then move to NumPy and pandas. So by end of your first month, basically what you have achieved, you would have set up a system, you would have learned Python, the basics of Python, and you would have played around with descriptive statistics. So you would have done things where people will tell you can describe a population based on a few parameters, and yeah, you would have learned NumPy and Panda. So that's month 1 if you are starting completely from scratch. Post that, you'll continue your learning on statistics. So you'll need to learn tools, you'll need to learn probability, you'll need to learn inferential statistics. So when you are looking at a sample and you need to draw inferences for a larger population, how do you do that? Post this, you'll start doing exploratory data analysis. What is exploratory data analysis? Exploratory data analysis is just, if you have data set with you, what are the kind of things you need to look at? How do you explore this data? What are the things which you can look at in this data and tell it to your business or your problem? And then you do your linear algebra. And this is the time when you start joining your data science communities. And I said, this is a continuous activity. So, starting from month 2, you can start looking at various communities, various Slack channels, various meetups happening in your domain. And you start becoming a part of this. So if you know exploratory data analysis, which you should by end of month 2 if you're following this learning path, you can take up various projects or various data sets from your own work, from your own hobbies, and you can start exploring them. You can bring out insights for either your business or your hobbies, and you can start sharing that with people. So something as simple as, if you follow cricket, you can look at what are some of the things to see which player works well in what conditions, what bowling attack works better against which person. These are the kind of questions you can answer just based on exploratory data analysis. So in summary, month one, we laid out foundations, we became comfortable with our main working tool. In month two, we moved on to learn more statistics, and then we started applying that to data sets to see and perform exploratory data analysis. Post that, we learned linear algebra. So basics of linear algebra, in case you don't know that, you should cover that at this stage, because post this we'll now move on to the core of data science. So you should, by month three, you would start learning the pipeline, data science pipeline, and this is the month when you'll learn a lot of algorithms on supervised machine learning, right? So all the basic supervised machine learning algorithms, if you follow this learning path, you should be learning them in month three. So linear regression, logistic regression, decision trees, naive Bayes, and support vector machines. So by end of this, you would be able to build regression models. You will be able to build classification models. So any problem you have, you can then take it over and do some modeling. That's what you'll achieve by end of month three. In parallel, you should start spending time on Linux command line systems. There are various commands which you should know. Most of the data scientists use Linux as their operating system. And if you are going into production systems, anyway, Linux is the preferred server operating system. So you should learn Linux as an operating system. Basic commands, starting from how to list directories to how to read files, how to look at logs, etc. You should know all of that by when you are doing this learning path. So by end of month three, you know various supervised learning algorithms. You have started understanding unsupervised learning. So you do basic unsupervised learning like clustering. And in parallel, you learn about various Linux command tools. And you are also in parallel going through various communities and interacting with people there. Come April, you will now look at how to ensemble models. So this is, understanding basic ensembling. So what is ensembling? Ensembling is nothing but how do I combine several models to give single output. It's a very simple concept. So for example, if one model is saying that a person would default on its loan, the other model is or let me put it, so if let's say 10% of the models you build say that a person is going to default on a loan, and 90% of models say that it's not going to default, you give some kind of weightage to come out with a probability whether the person would default or not. So how do you combine various models to come up with a single outcome? That's ensemble learning. So the models which you've learned in previous month March, you can now start to combine them and give much better results to your models. And this is where you'll also come across techniques like bagging, and random forest is essentially one form of doing this. So along with bagging, boosting and algorithms based on boosting like XGBoost, LightGBM, CatBoost, all of this you should learn in April. Now, one thing which I forgot to highlight: when you are doing each of these topics, you should take up a project and you should solve these. So the learning path has been designed in a manner that each of these is accompanied by a problem, and you're solving that problem as an exercise while you are learning that. So each of these sections have this learning path as a so there is a project attached to each of these sections. You should definitely make sure that you're doing those projects, right? And once you've done all of these algorithms, you should also try and learn what time series analysis is. This is one of the projects which is one of the techniques which is used very heavily in industry. So any forecasts you need, from something as simple as what would be the traffic on road to how much customer footfall would you see in your store, all of those use time series analysis. So any demand forecasting, especially in retail sector, is based on time series forecasting. So by month 4, you would, in summary, know most of the algorithms which you need to work with. You would know time series analysis. You should be comfortable with Python. You should know ensembling, and this is all to make sure that you are ready for solving problems, right? And in May, you would now start to look at validation strategies. So how good are your models? Are they doing or performing in a similar fashion in your test and train data sets? Is your model validating well? What is the right way to validate your model? How do you tune various hyperparameters to get best results out? So all of this is what you're doing in May. And basically what it means is you're becoming better at model building. And the third thing which you would do in May is feature engineering. So in feature, what is feature engineering? Feature engineering in very simple terms is telling your model that here are a few things which might contain more information than what you're reading right now. So how do you combine various variables or various parameters to come up with features? That's called feature engineering. We looked at what was ensemble learning. By this time, you should be able to do more advanced form of ensemble learning, which is essentially stacking and blending. And you should now start to subscribe to various data science newsletters. So, and there are newsletters from Analytics Vidya, from KD Nuggets to our bloggers to Data Science Weekly. You go out and subscribe to them. You see what people in industry are doing. You can also look at some of the Medium publications, what they are telling. So you are now getting into the middle of action in what is happening in industry. As you would notice, by this time you're also almost done with most of the learning on machine learning side, and you need to now apply this more and more to various problems, which is what we'll do in June. So you learn matrix algebra. You would learn how to deal with complexity, dimensionality as a problem. So in a lot of problems, you'll have various dimensions which may or may not be orthogonal. Essentially, what it means is there is similar information coming from various variables. So how do you deal with that? So typically, for example, a smartphone sensor captures information from hundreds of sensors. Now, which out of these sensors should you pick? That's called that's what you will solve with dimensionality reduction. And you would need to learn to work with different types of data. This could be structured data, unstructured data, from images, from text, from voice. How do you synthesize them? How do you convert these into a form that your machine can understand? And finally, by end of June, you should learn recommender systems, right? So in the first 6 months, by end of 6 months, you would know machine learning completely. You would have done several projects. So at a minimum, every month you're doing 2 to 3 projects. So you would have a lot of projects, a lot of problems you would have worked on. So there should be at least a project on time series, one on recommender systems. You should try and solve at least one problem using all the algorithms which we have mentioned, both on regression as well as classification front. So you already have a good set of projects in your portfolio which you can showcase to people when you start going out and applying for various jobs. This is when we now start to learn deep learning. So come July, you should now start to look at deep learning as a domain. So you know machine learning, you need to now learn deep learning. And the first thing you need to do is to set up your system. Why do you need to do that? Because deep learning needs GPUs in order to the models to work and in order to do these computations efficiently. So that's what you'll do. And you'll start learning about deep learning. What is multi-layer perceptron models? How do neural networks work? What is backpropagation? How do they reduce errors? You would go and learn these things. And because you have now learned machine learning, you should now start building your profile as well. So build your profile by working on various projects. problems, which I already mentioned. Participate in competitions, upload your projects on GitHub. Recently, GitHub made all its repositories free, even the private ones. So do upload more and more things on GitHub. Write blogs and share it with people. So whenever you have solved a particular problem, a project, make sure that you come back, you write your approach, you share it with people in form of blogs, and you continue to learn while you're spreading your knowledge as well. So on the learning side, you have started with deep learning. On the parallel track or the learning track, you're starting to showcase your work to the larger world. Now, in August and September, you would pick up with what is called convolutional neural networks, or CNN. CNNs are used very heavily in computer vision as an application. So that's what you'll focus on, and you'll do projects on computer vision. What is computer vision? Simply put, you are trying to teach a machine how to see things. So it could be from images, it could be from videos. So if you have, let's say, a lot of photos for apparels, you're trying to tell your machines how to segregate them. It could be by color, it could be by design, it could be by the way they are wore, so on and so forth. Right. So again, if you think about it, images or inputs to computer vision problems is unstructured data. So you have now started working on unstructured data as well. By this time, if you don't know about databases, it's a good time to go back and learn about databases and SQL. There's something you would need in industry while you are working on production systems. So your data would typically come from databases. It's simple to learn. So make sure you're comfortable with SQL as a tool. Right, so you would know computer vision by this time, and in the next section we would look at other architectures in deep learning, which includes recurrent neural networks or networks which understand sequencing, LSTMs, GRU, and these would be used in text pre-processing, cleaning, and NLP projects. So how do you classify text, whether a particular tweet was done by a customer who was happy or who was sad, whether a particular customer is talking about a particular thing in a good manner or a bad manner. Those are the kind of projects you would do using NLP and the neural network architectures which you mentioned. Now, given that this is October, you already know machine learning, you have worked for a couple of months on computer vision problems, and you have started working on text problems as well. This is a good time to start thinking about interviews, start thinking about solving guesstimates, puzzles, case studies, because interviews would test you in a very, very different manner than just looking at technical capabilities. So it's a good time to start preparing for interviews. Again, there are various resources which are mentioned in the learning path. Go out, follow them sequentially, and you should be comfortable in appearing into these interviews as well. In November, we continue our learning on NLP. So we take things like topic modeling. So how to understand what is being talked about in a particular text. How do you summarize text? What are the relationships in the text? And you do various projects on NLP to continue to build your portfolio. So by November, you have a portfolio, and this is when you now go out and you start applying for jobs and internships, and you start looking out for various problems to solve. Now, as I said already, make sure that you're solving projects in each and every step, because if there is one thing which differentiates good data scientists from aspirational data scientists, is the amount of time the person has spent on learning these projects and doing these projects. So make sure you do projects. As I said, the learning path has all of these projects included in it. So make sure you do that. Right, a few good practices. So make sure you are consistent with your learning. Make sure you follow a well-structured path like the one I told you. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So don't try and cover too many things too quickly. Things will take its own time, and do them in a sustainable manner. right? Focus on understanding the intuition behind algorithms. Math is not that important. You need to understand that, obviously, but what you need to do more effectively is how a particular algorithm is working, what is the broad logic behind it, and in which scenarios can you apply it, and in which scenarios it will not give you results. You need to understand that. You need to develop an intuition for each and every algorithm, right? uh, I've already told you to work on projects. The more projects you work on and on real life data sets, the better it would be. And finally, as I said, engage with the community, starting from month two itself. So attend various meetups, attend webinars, talk to people in industry, see what they are working on. If you face any problem, ask questions to people. The data science community is phenomenal. You'll see people answering questions very quickly. People help out each other in various modes, starting from WhatsApp groups to to discussion portals to LinkedIn. There are people ready to help you out everywhere. It's one of the best communities I have ever seen in any domain. Right. So how do you register for the learning path? You can go on to trainings.analyticsvidya.com and register for your learning path. As I said, this was done with the intent to make sure that anyone who is new in this domain can come and simply follow the instructions, follow the topics, follow the content which is being recommended, and take the confusion out from your learning. Right? All the resources are free. So go out and make sure that you follow these in that order. So that was briefly what I wanted to cover as part of the plan to become a data scientist. What I'll do is now I'll open the forum for question and answers, and I'll start taking them one by one. So Aishwarya, how do you want to do it? Should I just take Q&A
Yeah,
directly?
sir. We have a few questions in the Q&A section. You'll be seeing it at the bottom of the page.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay.
Q&A.
I'll
We have.
start. Sure. So Mitesh is asking, if I take the ultimate path to data scientist by analytics, Vidya, will the industry accept me? So Mitesh, that's the intent. The resources which you have mentioned should enable you to become industry ready. Having said that, it's more about quality of application, the kind of projects you do, which will make that leap. So from a technical perspective, yes, it will cover everything. That's the intent, to make your industry ready. But a lot depends on the projects you do, the time you spend, the kind of features you can build. So if you put in the effort, there is no reason why you should not be able to make the switch. As I said, I already know multiple people who have made the switch, who are now in data science industry, and they started just like probably you some time back. The next question is from Siddhar. I am an application architect from Java background. I work on end-to-end application design through launch. I am interested in moving to data science, machine learning, but is it necessary to have data warehouse or DB experience to be a successful in machine learning field? Uh, Chidar, the short answer is no. You don't need to have experience. If you understand how a warehouse works, that's sufficient. You don't need to be a expert in data warehouse in order to be in data science industry. So you don't need to be expert. If you have that knowledge, it will definitely help you. Vikram, as a fresher to work, which is better in terms of industry? Should I go for startup, product-based company, or service-based industry? So, Vikram, it's actually your personal preference which should tell you what you need to do. It's not as if there is a single formula to do it. If you're more entrepreneurial in nature, go for a startup. From an exposure perspective, obviously the exposure in startups is a lot more typically, but you don't get to depth of things as much as you go in MNCs. So it's a personal preference. Having said that, in a service based industry, you might get exposure to multiple problems which can become very handy later in your career. So if you are entrepreneurial, go for a startup. Else I would say, you can be in a service based industry, but make sure that they offer you option to work in multiple industries. Abhishek sir, I've just completed my MSc in data science. I'm very interested in sports. Can you give me valuable guidelines and advances to share my career path? Uh, Abhishek, very interesting. So, sports analytics is very under penetrated right now. Having said that, while it's a under penetrated domain, you will need to put in extra effort. So what I would do is I would start learning. So the most of the path, even if you want to get into sports analytics, is similar to what I just shared. What you should do is you should start applying to more sports analytics related problems. So Kaggle does a yearly contest on NBA. You should look at that. There is a contest which analytics with that done in past around IPL and cricket. You can look at that. So find more problems, but your learning path remains the same. After, then for a person who has 1 year data science skill, actively participating in various data science competitions coming, no ML and DL skills, how he can progress data science journey in this year? Good question, Amir. What I would say is, if you already know the subject, if you already know what I have mentioned, you should try and apply this to as many problems as you can. So try and come in top, uh, you know, uh, quartile for Kaggle competitions. Try and make a mark in this. Learn from other people in industry. At the same time, start attending a few conferences. See what people are doing in industry. What are the kind of problems they are solving, and which problems excite you the most. But if you've done all of this, you should be in a good place to start appearing for interviews, and keep up with your learning in parallel. After 6 months, I can apply for jobs in the industries. Will I have the skills which the industry requires? So as I said, you would be ready to apply. The path says you should start building your profile. Whether you get accepted in industry would depend highly on the projects which you do. So as long as you are doing high quality projects, there is no reason why you cannot be in industry in 6 months from now. So make sure that you do projects, and accordingly you will be able to break into the industry. How can I start PySpark skills this year using big data techniques? Did Cloudera is the best way to start PySpark skills? So, Amir, my question to you is, first think what you want to achieve. Whether you want to become a data scientist or you want to become a big data engineer, because both of these would have different learning paths, at least in the start. So if you want to get into big data techniques, then Spark is necessary. Scala probably would be even better. If not, then if you want to be in data science, then the learning path which I just mentioned is a much better bet. Building a web app, use fast AI solutions to solve problems with having great accuracy. Not sure what you wanted to ask. Is it good to use fast AI solutions to solve problems with having great accuracy? Amir, fast AI is a really good library. It is giving really good results. You can use it. Having said that, you should make sure that you understand what these libraries are doing in the backend, how these work, what are the limitations they have. As long as you do that, you can use fast AI, or for that matter, you can actually use any libraries, as long as you understand what is happening, what algorithms are being used, and how these libraries are getting better efficiencies. The next question, how data science certificate will help in getting data scientist role? how it differs with showing our ML projects for the role. So Amir, this is not a certificate we are talking about. What I mentioned, the learning path, it's basically a guideline as to how you go into it. You would need to show your project. So we are not providing any certificate through this learning path. There are the other paid courses which we have, which have certificates. So if you need guidance, you can take up those courses, but the learning path which we are discussing here doesn't have a certificate, and it's basically a roadmap to for you to showcase what kind of projects you need to have before you start applying for industry. For a QA lead with 15 years experience, how data science will help to transform the job just by learning, since industry asks for professional experience and not just who worked on projects. So Tarun, good question. This is a challenge you will face irrespective of how much experience you have. The more experience you have, the bigger would be the challenge. The way to come over this problem is by doing more and more projects, applying to more and more real life data sets. So take up Kaggle competitions, the one which have descriptions around the problems. Look at some of the crowdsourcing hackathons which we do on Analytics Vidya. Try and build your own solutions, share it with the community. If you have a project in your own company, if you have access to data in your current role, try and do a project on this. So for example, in QA lead, if you have access to what kind of problems have come up in past, and you can do predictions of what can be future problems, that's a good place to start. So look within your own domain as a starting step. Look within your own company, and if you can find projects there, that's the best place to start. People are asking R along with Python. What is your view on it? Vishnu, my view on this is very clear. I have communicated it several times that it's not about the tool. As long as you know one tool well, you are good. It could be R, it could be Python. If you are starting fresh, I would recommend Python. But it's not about the tool. It's not tool is not the reason why a company would hire you. The company would hire you because you could solve problems for them, and this can be done using any tool. So make sure you know one tool well, and you do all your learning on that tool. So don't switch your tool in between. Don't try and learn both the tools if you have not learned all the techniques. So stick to a tool is what my answer is.
Sir, I am
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but we are running a little short of time. So we'll take a few random questions, and otherwise, the participants can reach to us via Discuss portal and contact form as well. So,
Sure. So you want to take the questions because I have not been able to read all the questions, or should I just pick a few randomly?
sir, you can just pick a few random questions, and we'll go ahead with that.
Sure. Okay. So let me take up a few questions. So apart from transition, is there any other reason to avoid R as a data scientist path? So I think I touched on this at the start as well. The main reason to recommend Python. So I'm not saying avoid R, first of all. What I'm saying is if you are a fresher between R and Python, you should use Python, right? But if you are already learning R, you can continue your journey. You will become a data scientist irrespective. Either of these tools, and the reason why I recommend Python is because it has a better deep learning ecosystem. It is more production ready. Anvesh has asked a few questions. Can anybody be a data scientist? Is 1 year experience in this field enough to get high paying jobs? Being blunt, average salary of Indian data scientist for people in 1 year experience, because everyone around me is talking about data science, is there a saturation now in market? Okay. I'll try and answer these questions. So first, can anybody be a data scientist? The answer is no. You need to have high curiosity, you need to have problem solving skills, you need to be good in technical skills so that you can code, you can apply brains to solve a problem and get insights from data. So not everyone can do those things. So it's not that everyone can become a data scientist. For people who can do these things, can they become a data scientist? Yes. Is 1 year of experience in this field enough to get high paying jobs? So I don't know what you mean by high paying jobs, but data science right now is one of the highest paying industry. So will you get good paying jobs? Yes. I don't know what is your threshold for high paying job. Average salary for Indian data scientists for people with 1 year experience in data science. So it depends on a lot of factors, starting from your education background, your stream, which city are you in. But depending on these factors, your salary after a year in data science could be anywhere between, let's say, 5-6 lakhs on the lower side, all the way up to probably 13-14 lakhs on the upper side. uh, is there a job saturation in the market? No, we are nowhere near saturation right now. In fact, there is a huge shortage of skills in industry. And for the next few years, I think that is how it will continue. Let me take another question. I have basic knowledge of ML algorithms. Should I dive into deep learning now or and do deep learning projects? This question is by Yashasvi Gautam. So Yashasvi, uh, make sure that you do a few machine learning projects before diving into deep learning. You need to have at least 5-6 good projects on machine learning before you go for deep learning, because a lot of fundamental things between machine learning and deep learning remain the same. So instead of trying to learn too many things too fast, remember it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So take ML algorithms which you know, apply them to problems, and then move to deep learning.
Um, all right, sir, can I take over now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, tell me.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. I know you have a lot of questions to ask. You can always reach out to us through the discussion portal. Go and check out it on discuss.analyticsvidya.com. I had a few repetitive questions about this webinar. First of all, yes, we will be sharing the recording of the webinar on our YouTube channel, and we'll share the link with you on the mail. Secondly, the learning path is live now. So as sir has already mentioned, you can check on the trainings portal. So we'll be winding up now. Thank you all for attending the webinar. Thank you, Kunal sir, for taking out time to conduct this webinar. It was an amazing, amazing and knowledgeable session. So I'll be taking a leave. Have a great evening, everyone.
Sure. Thanks, Aishwarya. Thanks everyone for attending. All the best for your career aspirations. Do reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'll be, happy to help you. But as I said, keep those things in mind. Go step by step. Make sure you create solid fundamentals, and we hope to see you more and more on Analytics with their platform. Thank you.